Good evening from PLUGHITZ Studios in Largo, Florida. I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we are here with episode 519 of F5 Live, Refreshing Technology, for Sunday, January 27th, 2019. This show is a proud part of the Tech Podcast Network. If it's tech, it's here. This week, Apple's not driving their own cars, Nintendo is driving their own growth, and Facebook is driving down their own value. Wherever you are and however you're accessing our show, whether it be on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, on any of our podcatchers, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Podcast Play in the Windows Store, the myriad of others like Spotify and TuneIn Radio. Of course, you could be joining us live on any of those partners, livestream.com, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, Periscope, Twitch, and Mixer. Thank you for making us a part of your day. Like I said, there are a couple of ways that you can do that. The first is live on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. There you can chat with us in the room while we're talking about the topics and give us your feedback as we go, which Abram and I always like to hear what you have to say. If you can't join us live, that's okay. We're on all of the syndication platforms you can think of, so you can always subscribe there. And the easiest way is by going to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. And there you'll see all of our shows, including F5 Live and the Pilch Point, which will be on in just a little bit, plus our special events feed, which will have content continuing from CES and then from the Synapse Summit, which we did live on Wednesday. That's another benefit of watching some of our stuff live, is that you get to see content long before it gets published sometimes, like Synapse. Our first look series, where we've got some new ideas coming over there, new product launchpad, and more. So you can go to PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe for all of that. If you are joining us live tonight, you will notice that we are trying something new. We've done some upgrades in the studio, and hopefully this live split screen is not going to overload the computer like it did the last time we ran this experiment, and you'll be able to see a nice, clean, clear picture of both Abram and I all through the show. Hooray! Abram!
Yay!
How are you tonight, buddy?
All right, not bad. Just got a lot of work, a lot of big stories that are coming out later in the week. So been working a little on it this weekend. Been working a little on it on Friday, and will be tomorrow. One thing I will tell people, I got to interview someone really fascinating and get some really good details about where Raspberry Pi is going, because I spoke to Eben Upton, the founder and CEO of the Raspberry Pi Foundation.
Awesome.
So my interview with him will be going up early this week. So there'll be some interesting details there about where Raspberry Pi has been and where it is going.
Awesome.
And lots of new products.
It is definitely that time of year, isn't it?
Good. I mean, it's good, right? Like if we don't get stuff, then then there's not. If nothing's happening, that's not good for the industry, for our readers, for our website. So yeah, we're always better off being extremely busy than the opposite.
Indeed, and I can confirm I have an office full of things to be poking at, and I know Danielle does too. So it is definitely the time of year for interesting new products. I am most excited about getting to try out the Benji lock, who our regular viewers will know we've been friends with Robbie since we met him at his first CES. This is 19, so it would have been 17 when he was down in Eureka Park and nobody was paying any attention to him. And now he pushes people out of the way for us to talk to him, even though he's part of Brinks Home Security and was featured on Shark Tank. He still pushes people out of the way for us. So I have one in my office. I cannot wait to try it out. I'm very excited about that one.
That does look interesting. kind of revolutionizing the padlock that you have for by making it biometric.
And
so
I really like
cool.
the idea that Kim, who is the CEO of the company that owned Brinks, liked the idea so much that he licensed the technology, and they're including it into a home deadbolt, so that you can do it with the deadbolt, which I think is a pretty cool idea too. So, cannot wait to see that on the market. I got to touch it on a demo door at CES, but can't wait to see that on the market because that's an awesome idea.
Yeah, I really liked that thing that they were doing with the lamps, with the what do you call them, the outdoor lamps that you put near your door.
The smart and the dumb.
Yeah. I think that's really good because there are smart doorbells like the Ring, but then they require you to replace your doorbell, which might sound like no big deal, but what if you really like your doorbell?
Right. Or what if it's
many people do?
Or what if it's something like my parents, the doorbell is all like wired in through the house, like it's a thing.
Yeah, mine too. Mine too. So it would be a big deal. First of all, it'd be a big deal to remove it, but second of all, one of the little charming things about my house is that it has like old-fashioned chimes or whatever that it chimes when you hit the doorbell in my house. So when my wife and I talked about maybe getting something like a Ring, we're like, yeah, but we don't want to lose our doorbell.
Right.
We just want the camera part.
Right. And the Array smart lights essentially give you that capability without having to replace the doorbell. Yeah.
Right. And they build it into the lights, which, that's, provide you think their lights are okay, which they look pretty decent to me. It's actually beneficial because it controls how bright the light gets if someone's there. Right. So it's good.
You can have them dim and turn on brighter if somebody comes across, and it's got all kinds of smarts so that it's not a cat setting it off, which I really like. If people want, just so you guys know, if you want more information about that, PLUGHITZlive.com/CES/2018. On there is an interview that we did with Kim Kelly, the CEO of the company that owns Brinks, that has that Array system. And so there's like a hands-on with it in that interview. So definitely check that out. But I guess for right now, how about we get down to some news?
Yes.
This week's Nifty Gifties on F5 Live is proudly powered by the Microsoft Store. Whether you're looking for a Surface, a Surface Book, a Surface Laptop, an Xbox One S or X, including the Xbox One X, 1 terabyte console with Forza Horizon 4, which is $50 off right now. Plus, you get a bonus of Gears of War 4, which is pretty cool. Up to $200 off the Surface Pro 6, $250 off the Dell Inspiron 13. All kinds of great deals, and it's not just Microsoft stuff. You can also get the Galaxy S9 and Galaxy Note 9 and a whole bunch of other stuff, all by visiting f5live.tv/Microsoft. So, over the last couple of years, obviously, autonomous vehicles have become a big part of the technology industry. At CES, it was kind of hard to avoid. In fact, there was a robot who was incapable of avoiding it and got destroyed the day before the show started. But autonomous vehicles are definitely in their super development phase. We're seeing them show up in several states from a lot of companies. And one of the companies who has had an interesting on-again, off-again relationship with self-driving vehicles has been Apple and their Project Titan. It has been kind of a chaotic group within Apple. And by that, I mean that their focus has shifted a couple of times. At one point, Apple was building their own car. And then at some point, they're like, no, we're not building a car. What we're going to do is we're going to build the sensor array and all the technology to make it possible. And we'll let other people deal with what a car is. And so a number of staffers changed within Project Titan. And then at some point, they hired back a former Apple executive, Doug Field, during about the middle of last year. Doug Field had been an Apple executive, had left to go work at Tesla, and has returned, and is now in charge of Project Titan. And this week, it was announced that 200 staffers had been moved out of Project Titan and into other projects within Apple. Now, in the past, when Apple has moved, it's not unusual for a company like Apple to move staffers around. If you've got somebody who's an honest expert on AI, maybe you need them working on Siri until their project is done, and then you go put them into the autonomous vehicle team, and you kind of move them around to where they're needed. It's unusual to move about 7% of an entire product team at once, though, unless there's a shift in focus. And the belief is that the shift in focus here is that they're going back to building their own car. What do you think about that, Abram?
So the interesting question is, does Apple want to make a car, or does Apple want to make the self-driving part of the car?
And that's the question they have not been able to answer for themselves, because they keep going back and forth on it.
I don't think any of these companies wants to make a car. I don't think NVIDIA wants to make a car. I mean, I don't think Intel wants to make a car. Like, I can't even begin to name all the companies that are making self-driving car technology.
Right.
And I have yet to hear of one. Well, besides Tesla, I think I've yet to hear of one that actually makes cars.
Right.
So it's really bizarre.
Tesla and Faraday, but Faraday hasn't actually put anything on the road yet. So.
Right, but like, I don't know. They must be working on it, but like, where's the Toyota self-driving car, or the Honda, or the GM, or the Chevy, or the Ford self-driving car?
Right.
I mean, it's very strange. It's like I understand the self-driving part is pretty complicated, but I can't imagine making cars is kind of difficult and requires a lot of experience. I can't imagine a company like Apple, which is a tech company, all of a sudden, buying, engines and wheels and axles and seats and like making a car. I mean, if there was to be an Apple car, it would undoubtedly be some kind of joint venture or a licensing where they use the Apple name.
Right.
But my guess is that there won't be an Apple car.
Yeah, when that was their plan, which was the case before 2 years ago, I always thought that was a strange move. It seemed like a weird place to go for a company like Apple, who knows how to make very small things, to try and do something so big and so specialized and so like odd. And then when it turned out that they actually were designing one, that was strange. And then that went away. They're like, no. We realize that's a silly idea. That's not who we are. We're going to just build the technology. But, now if they're making these big moves and they've literally hired somebody who has worked inside of Tesla on the hardware side of things, it's possible that they're going back to the idea. I think it would be a terrible idea. But, I think the way Google's doing it, the way Waymo is doing it, partnering with Honda, for example, to together let Honda deal with the thing that they're best at and let Waymo deal with the thing that they're best at, that makes way more sense to me.
Right. I don't get it. It doesn't make sense to me. Like, why would you, why? I mean, remember when Apple was going to make a TV and they wussed out of doing that? Like, that was in their within their core competency.
Yeah.
Making a TV. Apple. I mean, I don't know if they actually do much of the manufacturing, but Apple sells all kinds has been known to sell Apple branded monitors.
Right.
Although right now, I guess they're more concentrating on like, they've had some through partners and whatever, but
Yeah.
that's a core competency. Display technology. They put out lots of things with displays in them.
And they put out a TV device, the Apple TV. If you could build that into a television, there's an Apple branded TV, and they already know how to do all the inside stuff.
Right.
So that one made sense, and they still backed out of that one.
Right. So if they didn't want to do that,
right,
why would they do a car?
Totally with you. It seems like a terrible idea if they are thinking about trying that. It just seems crazy.
I mean, the TV, my free advice to Apple is you should still try to make the TV, because like Apple has a following in consumer electronics. People who are not necessarily Mac people became iPhone people and iPad people.
Yeah.
So I think they would have a really good chance to get people to buy an Apple TV, even if it were nothing more than a high quality TV with Apple TV, set top box built in.
Yeah.
And Apple, aesthetics to it. I'm sure it would do fairly well, but they are not in position to
succeed in cars.
To make cars.
Yeah.
It also begs the question of what's going to happen if all these companies get their wish and make self-driving car technology. Doesn't there need to be a standard for it to actually be safe?
802.11. I don't remember what the P something. 802.11p is the communication standard for autonomous vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, it's good that they're going to have a communication standard, but like people still haven't agreed on, and maybe this is just where there has to be laws or whatever, things like what is the moral center of the machine? If it thinks it's going to run into a crowd of people, should it protect the driver, or owner, passengers, whatever, or protect the pedestrian? Should it, like there's just all kinds of all kinds of things. And so you're going to have Apple make one that, I don't know, what are you going to do? You're going to have Apple make one that will protect the driver at all costs, and then you'll have Intel make one that'll swerve and that'll swerve off the cliff. Like, what are the standards for what makes these things safe?
Yeah.
For even if they can communicate with each other, and one is going to say to the other, like, I want to pass you, or something. I mean, I don't know. Like, it's so weird to me. I really wish that I had gotten at CES to ride in a self-driving Lyft. CES, they were actually showing self-driving Lyfts.
Yes, indeed.
So.
That's actually, I think that's what took out the robot. One of my favorite stories from the show. But yeah, all of this is super early tech. I mean, it all requires a sensor array that is ridiculously out of hand, like size-wise and all of that. Tesla has tried with a smaller array, and they keep hitting things and people. So, as of right now, for it to function seemingly at all, there is a ridiculous sensor array that has to stick off the top so everybody looks like a Google Street View car, which is going to obviously prevent real-world sales. So I don't think we're going to, see anything outside of the test concept in reality for a while, because there's all this stuff that has to be dealt with, right? If if you're at a cliff, which rule wins? Is it the hitting the people? Is it stopping and getting hit from behind? Is it going off the cliff? Which of these rules wins? There's all that stuff that needs to be dealt with, and I don't think they're anywhere near it. So at the way Project Titan keeps changing their focus, it'll probably move 4 or 5 times before we see anything out in the real world other than their half a dozen test vehicles that they've got in California. I don't think we have any need to worry about it for a while. This week's Pilch Point with Avram Pilch is proudly powered by Newegg. Whether you're building a new computer or upgrading an existing one, Newegg has all the parts and pieces to make it easy for you. Whether you're looking for components like a video card, a power supply, motherboard and processor, or your more final products like a full laptop, a gaming desktop, or just a monitor, you can find them all by going to pilchpoint.live/Newegg. So we talked earlier, Avram, that now is the time for us to be seeing new products, and I am hoping you've got one there with you.
I do. So this is something that they were showing at CES. It's out now. It's from the Sphero company, which you normally associate with making ball-shaped robots, but this is something else. It's called Spectrums. So first of all, we have this mat here, but the mat is not actually where all the magic happens, but it does give you a whole bunch of colors. The magic all comes from this ring. So what Spectrums is it's this ring, which is a Bluetooth LE ring that has a color sensor in it. And then it pairs with your phone or tablet with this app called Spectrums Mix. And in the app, you've got all kinds of different sound schemes that you can choose from, including, let's see, I'll go with, what should we go with? Electro dance. So when you do it, what you do is you look on the screen, you see something that looks just like the mat here. But what happens is when you're paired, let's see, am I paired with my phone? Yes, I am paired. So when I wear this ring, I can play this music by hitting any of these colors with my fingers. So let's see. So if let's up the volume here. So may or may not be able to hear it. Let's see. But you can also, now here's the catch though, you can also do it with your finger. So, in effect, all this is doing is being a color sensor. Mm-hmm. But you can make some pretty cool music with it. You may not like the light in my room or something here because it's connected. I
think it's the shadow coming from your hand that's changing the color.
Oh. Now, here's something that's really interesting to know, folks. This thing here, not needed.
Right.
It's cute. But as long as you find something that has one of these colors, and unfortunately on the webcam the colors aren't coming through so great, but if you find something in your room, in your clothes, and anywhere except don't tap on the screen, that doesn't work. But anyway, if you find, like if it's got Isaac, that was the first thing, my son, that was the first thing he tried. But, there's a green one, right? If you find something green around, here I'm tapping on the green, it will make it play.
Yeah.
And of course,
yep.
It also does it also plays loops here. Sounds a lot like Sorry for Party Rocking.
Yes, it does.
Anyway, and they've got one that's like a retro arcade one, and you can also record your own sounds. Mm-hmm. And it's fun. The Sphero Spectrum. Now, this is made to sort of teach kids a little bit about, get them interested in music, get them interested in tech. It does not teach programming skills, as you can see, because what's the program?
Right.
Now, theoretically, let's keep in mind that the music part is just an app. The piece of hardware that they give you is a color sensor. So now you might be wondering, my first question to Sphero when I saw this was, do you need the ring? Could you just download the app and do this? And the answer is yes and no. They have fixed it so that you can't launch the app if you don't have the ring connected.
Okay.
However, once you have the ring connected, if you just wanted to do this, you could. Now, I'm not totally up on all the music apps that are available for Android and iOS, but my guess is that there's probably other apps out there that would do this without the ring.
Yes.
That one could get. That's my guess.
Yeah, there's all kinds of beat makers.
So I think what's special is the color sensor, and the fact that you have a color sensor on this like Bluetooth LE thing, which I think they said lasts about 2 hours. And my son, I played with it for a long time, and the battery didn't go down at all. So that's good, and it charges by micro USB. Now, what I'm looking forward to with this is when and if they come out with an API or something where you could program other things to take input from this.
Yeah.
So, for example, let's say you had a Sphero robot, and then you could fix it so every time you touched green with this, the robot would go forward, and every time you touched like red, it would stop moving or something like that.
That would be so cool.
Like there's a lot of, right? Because you could, so what now, they did not say they're going to do that, but when I talked to them, they said, oh yeah, we'll come out with API for this. If they do, I will definitely try to spend a weekend trying to make it work. Now, I mean, granted, for those who aren't electronics hobbyists, let me tell you, you can get color sensors in the world. It's not the first thing in the world to have color sensor,
right.
But I have not seen anywhere a color sensor this convenient and wearable.
Yeah.
Where it's Bluetooth LE built right into it. You can kind of put it on your finger, So those of you looking to give it as an engagement ring will be happy to hear it only costs $65.
And if you wanted to have matching rings as that engagement ring, $99 for a pair of them.
I'm telling you, it's a much better deal than any of the diamond or gold stuff out there. First of all, this does something, okay? Those don't do anything. I mean, do you think about like the gaming system that you could buy somebody if you took all the money that you were going to spend on like expensive jewelry and spend it on tech, so you could just give that special person this ring, and then they can detect any color you want, In fact, you think of the API engagement you could do with this, like, hey, here's a ring. You want to know what message I'm trying to send you with this? Tap this color.
Put together like a whole scavenger hunt kind of thing.
Yeah. Maybe you use it for a promposal or something.
That would be fun. One of the things that I thought was really cool about the product is that the colors, you can reprogram what the colors are that you're sensing for based on the things around you. So you don't have to go look for a thing that's one of the colors on the board. You can reprogram it and touch, say, I want to change this green, and then touch a pear or something, and it'll pull that color off of the pear and turn it into the sensor color. That was something that I thought was pretty cool, so that you can literally build your own color palette or your own color pad if you wanted to.
Yeah, you know what else is pretty interesting about that concept? Again, going to the API part. Sorry, folks. I know this is meant to be a child's toy, but my child, the 6-year-old, when he saw this, he enjoyed playing with it very much. But he was like, I wish you could do more with it, and a little bit, because he's all into building robots and everything. And I was like, well, what if I could make this control one of your existing robots by touching a color? And he was like, oh man, you should do that today. I was like, well, I would have to really try and figure that one out, because there's no documentation on how to do it.
Yeah.
I might be able to use I haven't tried this yet. I might be able to use a Bluetooth sniffer or something to see what signals it's sending back through the air, and then try to reverse engineer like what it's sending. But, here's the other thing you could do with this potentially. You could possibly use it to grab colors for, I don't know, color matching things. I don't know how good it is for that. We'd have to try it, but you ever see something like, oh, I want the paint. I like that color paint or something. What if you could just tap this against whatever, and then it would give you the hex, the hex code for that color, or the RGB for that color.
Oh, I am mad that I don't already have that capability.
Now, what I don't know is, since I'm not an artiste and color specialist, whether if there's some level of bits or whatever, some level of accuracy that it's going to need that this ring doesn't have.
Sure.
But I certainly give it a shot.
Yeah, for sure. I love that idea. I already want to be playing with it.
Yeah. So this is a situation where, I don't know, to me the tech is actually more interesting than the application at this point. But the application is fun. $65 or $99 for two of them is really not bad. Kids will have fun with this. It is definitely compact, unlike a lot of musical toys that some people have bought my son that take up a lot of space. You got this and you got this, and that's it. And so good news is it's not going to eat up a lot of space in your house. And all of the noise comes from your phone or tablet. So, if you can lock down one of those, you can lock down the noise. So that's just my look at the Sphero Spectrums, available now for $65 and $99. Our full review of that should be going live soon. But I got to say, it's pretty fun, and the potential is really big.
Well, I obviously I'm excited by it. We talked before the show that the product, or maybe even at the beginning of the show, it got started at Collision, which for me is even makes it even more exciting that I get to see something that was a startup, at Collision, which is becoming one of my favorite shows of the year, turn into this really cool implementation with the partnership with Sphero. So that's always cool to see. So good for them. And it's a cool product. Obviously, we've sat here and come up with all kinds of cool additional uses for it.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's so much fun. It's so much fun to think of what you could do with it, and all it really is a color sensor. But you don't really get one in this form factor. So it's fun. It's fun to think about things like that. I'll think about so this week. Stay tuned for Tom's Hardware. You'll be learning about this, and you'll be learning about Raspberry Pi. So two things you can have fun with that allow you to have fun with sensors.
Yes, indeed. Well, I look forward to seeing the full review, and I think I've been looking forward to that interview for a while. So definitely can't wait to see those out in the wild. This week's Extra Life on F5 Live is proudly powered by Razer, all the accessories you need to up your game on both PC and console. And it doesn't matter whether you're looking for a new keyboard like the Black Widow X Chroma Mercury Edition, which is $40 off right now, or you're looking for a great mouse like I use here in the studio, like the Mamba Flux, which right now is $30 off. You're looking for gaming headsets, which they've got a whole variety of webcams that have the chroma key built in, or even full laptops. They've got them all, and you can find out about all of that at f5live.tv/Razer. So there was some fear in 2017 that it was not a good retail year for gaming consoles. As it turned out, NPD at the beginning of 2018 disproved that, and not only was it a positive year for console sales, it was actually a bit of a banner year for console sales, having a 27% sales increase over 2016, which is a pretty big deal that far into a console generation's lifespan, with the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4 both having time behind them. Obviously, that was led in part by the release of the Nintendo Switch, though not by that much because they were impossible to get your hands on. So if they could have built them faster, it might have even been a bigger year. Now, fast forward to 2018, again, little fear that maybe there'd be some slowdown. Turns out, nope. In fact, on top of that increase from 2016 to 2017, there was another 8% sales growth on console sales. Again, led by Nintendo. In fact, Nintendo was by far the largest console sales for 2018. Clearly, the Switch being earlier in its lifespan helped with that a lot, but I think a lot of the credit goes to Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, which came out near the end of the year. And of course, whenever there's a game like that, there's always holdouts that then finally buy the console. And considering Super Smash Bros. Wasn't released until December 20th of 2018, it was still the number 5 game for the entire year. So that's pretty impressive given only 3 weeks of sales.
Yeah, I mean, people were in my office are obsessed with Smash Brothers. Like, we had a holiday party and like everybody like went into a conference room and was playing Smash Brothers. And it just shows what an old fogey I am, because they handed it to me and they hand me the Joy-Con and they're like, "Yeah, you're gonna play this, right?" And I was like, "Okay." And I totally died like within a few seconds. Yeah, I mean, people love their Nintendo Switch. Nintendo is great at providing that kind of fun, without being the leader in processing power and technology. They're a leader in knowing how to make games fun and engaging.
Yeah.
Even if they're not, employing all of the highest end tech. So,
and I think that has a lot like the not employing the highest end tech. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that, Microsoft and Sony certainly target the core gamer market. Whereas Nintendo's like, anybody can pick this thing up, literally can pick it up and play Pokemon or, whatever game they want. They go from, the more casual style games, up through AAA, both first party and third party titles. They really don't target just the core gamer. They target anybody who's just looking to have fun at any point.
I think that there are more kids. My son is 6. I think there are more kids his age that he knows in school who have Switch than have any of the major consoles. Mm-hmm. Now, I've told him that he's not getting a Switch because like that's a invitation for something that he's going to drop on the floor and break,
sure.
Versus a heavy console that he's not going to pick up and is cheaper.
Ideally,
can play more stuff. Yeah, he doesn't because but the Switch is supposed to be picked up,
right?
And that's its downfall, But yeah, Nintendo is really good at what they do. Plus, they've made a really compelling argument to people who are console gamers that maybe you need another console. Like, I know people have Xbox and PlayStation together, but they don't really need to have them.
Right.
like you really, if you're going to have one, you probably just need to pick one. Whereas, there's an argument to be made because it's got different titles, it's got a different style of
Yeah.
gameplay, it's got the Joy Cons
And
and
so many first party titles.
that you can't play on other
Yeah.
platforms. That that there's an argument to be made that you can have the Switch and that it's okay to have a Switch and an Xbox or a
Right.
Switch and a PlayStation.
Yeah. And
Um,
have totally different experiences because you can't play, Breath of the Wild or Pokemon off of the Switch. You can't play Super Smash Bros. Ultimate off of the Switch. It's your only place for it, and so you legitimately get, a different gaming experience than, okay, Call of Duty is on both consoles. All right. What?
right. Exactly. So I think good for Nintendo. I think a couple years ago you and I were talking about how much trouble they were in with Wii U being such a flop.
Oh yeah. Which I said from the day they announced it. Everybody else on the team disagreed with me, but I said that thing was going to be a failure. I didn't want it to be, but I knew it would be.
The market was hungry for Nintendo to do something right. People wanted them to succeed.
And doing something so similar and then just adding a tablet to it was not it.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, good for them. Good for the market,
Yeah.
I guess.
No more quarterly losses out of Nintendo, which is great
Yeah.
because they went, what was it, 103 years without ever having a quarterly loss, and then all of a sudden it was 11 in a row or something like that, which was entirely because of the Wii U.
Now I'm a PC guy, and you know that my website is pretty much all about computers. So, I'm heartened to see that people are still spending still spending good money on buying PCs to play
Yeah.
even higher end games. But the quality of these consoles is getting really good.
Yeah, for sure. Especially when you look at what the Xbox One X and the PlayStation 4 Pro are capable of doing. Ooh, they are definitely keeping up, and I can't wait to see what that next Xbox One console, whose name I can't remember right now, what that's able to do. Because that might revitalize the Xbox sales too, because the X did, the Pro did for PlayStation, and those two combined with the Switch are almost certainly where that 27% came in on 2017. So, obviously we don't know what 2019 will look like, but if 2017 and 2018 are any indication, and we know that Microsoft's working on another Xbox iteration that's going to be discless, that 2019 could be another sales growth year for console sales, which would definitely be good for the industry. This week's news from the tubes on F5 Live is proudly powered by RiffTrax. Make fun of movies or, let these guys do it for you. Mike Nelson, Bill Corbett, and Kevin Murphy, the former stars of Mystery Science Theater 3000, are back and doing what they do best, creating commentaries for Hollywood blockbusters and B-movie oddities like You're the Hunter from the Future. It appears to be in black and white, and they're milking a cow. I don't know what this film is about, but that's what makes these B movies the best. If you want to find out what films and what short films are available, you can go to f5live.tv/rifftracks with an X. Seriously, now they're feeding a horse, and a horse is drinking from a cow. How is this a sci-fi? I don't know. Anyway, very weird, the stuff that shows up on there, and that's what makes it the best. Anyway, over the last 7 or so years, Facebook has made a lot of acquisitions, sometimes even causing trouble for themselves, like in 2012 when they purchased Instagram for what at the time seemed like a ludicrous amount of $1 billion. But it turned out to not be a ridiculous price. They actually risked their own IPO by making that purchase. In 2014, they bought WhatsApp, a significantly smaller user base, for $16 billion, certainly making that $1 billion for Instagram look like a steal. One of the things that is kind of in common across some of these platforms, in particular Facebook, WhatsApp, and Instagram, is that they all include private messaging, WhatsApp being a private messaging service. And as Abram and I have talked about for the last couple of years, we don't quite understand why there are so many hundreds of thousands of companies all trying to do private messaging, because how do you make it special? You don't. That's how. There, a couple of companies like WhatsApp, did something that, until then, very few companies had done and been successful with, is done end-to-end encryption on the messages. In AOL Instant Messenger years ago, you could add your own certificate to AIM, but that was not for the faint of heart to set up. But WhatsApp has end-to-end encryption on all messages. So Zuckerberg decided to put a call to action on all three teams and to create a unified messaging platform for all three. So there's some good and some bad here. The good would be that if you have a Facebook account, you do not want to also have a WhatsApp account, you would be able to communicate cross-platform without having to have a separate account. That sounds like a great idea. Except, remember we just talked about encryption. That is certainly going to make it, impossible. So that means that WhatsApp at some point is going to have to either have some sort of an encryption black hole in the center of their communication portal, or all three platforms are going to have to be encrypted. I can guarantee you it's not going to be B, because while Facebook and Instagram get some information about you by what you post and what you like, their advertising goldmine is in your private messages. So I feel like there is a 0% chance that they're going to encrypt messages on Messenger and Instagram and give up that gold mine of information that you're sharing. What do you think, Abram?
That's a good... probably, I mean... Yeah, I suppose not. Yeah.
It would certainly seem crazy, which means in the hub of this 3-spoke messaging system, there's going to have to be a place where it goes, nope, don't encrypt this one to WhatsApp, which means that all of a sudden WhatsApp's going to get unencrypted messages. How do you know which ones are and which ones aren't? Are they going to tell you? Who knows? Does that begin the unraveling of encryption on WhatsApp? Who knows? All of that makes that platform certainly questionable, and that $16 billion start to look frightening for investors.
Right. I mean, it was always a flavor of the month. Of course, everything having to do with social media is a flavor of the month.
Absolutely.
Because nothing about social media is based on having a superior technology platform to somebody else. Like anyone could create Twitter. Yeah. Anyone could create Facebook. It's not that they're sitting on all this technical innovation. No. They're sitting on popularity. Uh-huh. It's not even like Amazon or something where they've created like a really good service with good prices and whatever. Like they're really getting by on the fact that at one point in history, a lot of people signed up, and now everybody's there, and so people still come there.
Yeah, it's like the Kardashians; they're famous for being famous.
Yes. So, if something better comes along, or people just get too annoyed, that their whole business could go under, because fundamentally Like, we've seen it. Google made Google Plus. There was nothing technologically worse about Google Plus.
No. In fact, it had some capabilities that the other platforms started to pull over.
It it
Because
just
yeah,
it just didn't have the influencers.
yeah, exactly.
Right? It didn't. So now
Or
the
the
word
or the young people,
right.
which
Well,
is where Facebook's purchase of Instagram came from, was because
right.
both Facebook and Twitter were interested, because both of them were losing new subscriber signups to Instagram, and Twitter put out a bid, and Facebook panicked and put out a
Ev-
bigger bid in the midst of an IPO, which almost screwed that up for them.
Everybody wants the younger generation. I
Yeah.
mean, here's a little story, right? So like we take a lot of briefings from when I was at Laptop, when I was at Tom's Guide, even now. We've ended up taking a fair number of briefings from HP, and almost every time we talk to HP and they talk about their laptops that are coming out. For years they would talk about millennials, like this business laptop is going to really appeal to millennials because millennials like good-looking stuff, which was really funny to me because I'm Gen X and I'm like, oh no, we like ugly stuff, right?
Right.
Um, and then miraculously, like last year, all of a sudden, the references to millennials started to recede a little bit, and now it's I think Gen Z,
Yeah.
right? So now, like millennials, you're too old.
Indeed.
Uh,
Because
now they want
I'm
Gen Z.
because I'm technically a millennial. I'm no longer the target demo.
Yeah. Everybody.
Because I mean, technically at this point, I'm pretty locked into my brands of choice. In fairness, as far as laptops are concerned, I'm kind of locked into my brands of choice.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just funny because I don't, are they targeting them because they think they can get them to move brands, or are they targeting them because every business wants young people?
Yeah.
Nobody aside from consumer cellular, which makes those $15 a month phones,
Track phone. Come on, track phone.
or every business and like the Colonial Penn life insurance or whatever, every business wants young people. Like, I would say my son is probably the target demographic. He's got to enjoy it while he can. Like, they would love to get him interested in, he's a little too young
Yeah.
using it, but they would sure, but no one can be too young to be targeted by advertising, just too old. So,
Indeed.
so yes, they are afraid. Facebook, is deathly afraid of somebody cooler coming along and getting the young crowd. So their strategy is to just keep buying whatever becomes popular,
Yep.
so that they can incorporate it. Now, what happens if there's somebody so big that they can't be bought?
Yeah.
So, mightier companies have fallen. And other companies like Google, there's technology underlying Google. There's reason why people use it. Facebook, they've obviously made some technology purchases and getting Oculus and things like that, but the reason people use Facebook is because of who else is there.
Right.
So,
And the same thing goes for Instagram, because I mean, millennials are into Instagram, but the younger side of millennials, and certainly Gen X, a lot of them don't have Facebook accounts at all and exclusively have Instagram.
right.
So, that's definitely, that was the thing that both of those companies were afraid of, both Twitter and Facebook, was that was going to happen and the other one was going to buy it. And so they both tried. And
Yeah,
so
exactly.
So if I only have Facebook, and this isn't the case, and I guess Danielle's at the very extreme low end. We're at the extreme ends of the millennial generation. So, and say Danielle only had an Instagram, which wouldn't be unusual for somebody her age. The whole idea here is for us to still be able to communicate back and forth.
You can talk those young folks' language.
Oh yeah, I definitely have learned that I cannot do that. I very frequently have no idea what the robotics kids are talking about, which is just fine with me. But yeah, so this is going to be an interesting project. It'll be interesting to see if they even get started on it, let alone finish it, because I think it's more complex than they're giving credit for.
Yes, it is. But, they're going to try to do it because it's good for them to have all that data.
Yeah, indeed. This week's DRM Not Included on F5 Live is proudly powered by Amazon Prime. You know your basic features. You know you get free shipping, sometimes 2-day, 1-day, sometimes 2-hour, depending on where you are and what you're buying. But you may not know about all the other cool stuff you also get. Amazon Prime Music, a couple million tracks available to stream for free as part of your subscription. Avram's favorite, Amazon Prime Video, which gives you all kinds of video content, including TV shows and movies and documentaries, both original content and licensed. Even a whole bunch of the HBO back catalog is all available on there, again, as part of your subscription. My favorite is Twitch Prime, which gives you one free subscription on Twitch every month, which you could use to subscribe to PLUGHITZ Live or any other channel on Twitch, and the free games, which is the win for me. Free games available on Twitch all the time if you pair your Amazon account over, and they have some really fun games. I go back and replay Psychonauts on a fairly regular basis. That the most recent time I got it through Twitch Prime. So if you're a subscriber, we have links for all of these cool benefits that you get. If you're not a subscriber, we have an offer for a 30-day free trial, so you can give it a try and see if it's for you. And all of that is available by going to f5live.tv/prime. So, content curation, I guess we'll call it, because online censorship sounds harsher, has been certainly all the rage lately. Avram and I have talked a number of times over the last year or so about why these companies wouldn't want to get into it and yet continue to find themselves in this place where they decide what is and is not content-wise going to be part of their platform. We've seen, Facebook pull weird stuff, any positive reference to sex a couple of months ago, maybe November or December, which was a weird move for them. YouTube has been another big place where we've seen you can't monetize any video that even uses the word gun. I had one thing that YouTube, there was a tag. I don't remember what the tag was, but it was like, it had the word sneeze in it or something. And YouTube's like, well, if you include that tag, you can't monetize your video. I'm like, what? So both companies have certainly done weird things to either demonetize or demote or entirely prevent certain content from their sites, which of course is a slippery slope, and that slope has continued for YouTube. And this week, they have decided that they will be the arbiters of what is a conspiracy theory versus an alternate version of a story, and they will be demoting any video that they decide is a conspiracy theory, which of course means that YouTube has decided that they will be in charge of what is considered true, which for me is a scary move. They're starting with clear things. Examples that totally make sense. If you were to be okay with this concept, the idea of flat Earth, they're demoting flat Earth stuff, which for me is disappointing because that's some of the best comedy on the internet. I don't think there's any comedy videos out there that come close to watching a flat earther explain their theories. So that's going to be sad for me. That's how I find those. False claims about 9/11 and the Holocaust and things like that. Okay, I can see how you get there, but of course, I'm always pessimistic about these things. I feel like it starts here and gets worse over time because there's no clear boundaries on what is a conspiracy theory. What it is today and what it is in a month start to scare me. What about you, Abram?
Yeah, that's the challenge for any company that provides a platform for video, or a platform for or a platform for text. Like, how do you decide to be the arbiter?
Right.
Who's the arbiter? And that's why you see so many companies abdicating that responsibility,
Yeah.
or doing it very poorly, because first of all, they're kind of in business to make money. So the more content on the platform, the better as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
Second of all, if they offend people, they're going to leave the platform. So let's say maybe you're running a platform and you know that the earth is round, but who you could say, who am I to annoy the flat earthers? Right.
Which totally makes sense to me. It seems strange because, like, YouTube, in my experience, a large portion of the stuff on YouTube and the ones that get, big ratings are things like, tech videos, and then oddball videos.
Exactly.
The flat earth videos and the what if 9/11 was an inside job and what but then sometimes those alternate stories turn out to be true, like what we saw with the DC kids a week or 10 days ago or however long ago that was. The thing that came out from CNN and NBC turned out to be a total fiction, and if it hadn't been for the original video being published on YouTube and Facebook, the world may have believed the original story that turned out to have been created by somebody with a cell phone at the event, So
exactly.
So how does YouTube say, well, CNN says that this is the true story? Well, CNN's story was wrong. Whether, I don't have any idea if it was by choice or not, and that might be where the conspiracy theory aspect of that story comes in. But I don't know if they did it on purpose or they were just too lazy to pull the whole video. But they provided a very false narrative. And then, so do we say, well, CNN's right, and then all of the content about what actually happened gets demoted? Eek, that seems scary to me.
Right. So that's why it's a really difficult business to be in the business of trying to decide what's true and not.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, people have been. You can go back to Plato and Aristotle, and they didn't necessarily always have an answer for you.
Right.
So, on the other hand, when you don't moderate at all, then you end up with a lot of false information flying around, and that's not necessarily good for good in the public interest.
Especially not if we continue to push down the idea of critical thinking, which I think has been happening a lot lately. We've discouraged critical thinking and said somebody else is going to be in charge of deciding what's true or not for you. And I don't think either option is good, but at least if you have information, you can theoretically make a decision, based on that information. But like to your point, people tend to make snap decisions based on little bits of nonsense, which is exactly what happened with those kids in DC. So, even professional journalists got tricked into a story. So,
there's a lot of perspectives on the truth.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I this week I had the unpleasant opportunity to watch my sister-in-law and my mother get into a debate on Facebook about a new controversial new law in New York State. And I won't even get into it on this podcast because we don't talk about that sort of thing. But let me just say that, like, in some ways, neither of them was wrong. Like, you know, it was a perspective on something that happened.
Yeah, it's that whole idea of you can use the Bible to justify any side of any argument. Because you can use the same set of facts but cut them how you want to prove any argument.
Right. So, you know, and my mother pointed to Snopes. She was like, "Hey, you know, look at Snopes," and it had no effect on my sister-in-law and all of her friends and what they believe. So, like, sure. I don't know who the arbiter is. Like, if it's not Snopes, I don't know who it is. You know, is it PolitiFact, or, like, you know, who is it that, you know, who do you trust? Who do you believe?
Right. And for me, I always have to go to multiple sources, and you know, I'm a big fan of going to conspiracy theory sites because they bring up aspects of things that you may not have encountered outside. And if you can at least back up some of the facts from the outside world, you know, it can help, you know, shape the story, because everybody these days is trying to tell a story. And, you know, the question becomes how much of each version of the narrative is accurate, and, you know, putting that story together can be difficult, but I think that's part of being a person. Most people don't agree with me. Most people don't think that critical thinking is part of being a person, but I think that's the foundation of being a person, personally.
Here's a good rule of thumb. I think if it confirms what you already believe, then you should probably question it.
Mm-hmm.
If it seems to lend credence to what you want, if it's sort of like what you want to hear, then you should probably question it.
Right. Like, if you read that Hillary Clinton is running a sex ring out of a pizza shop, and you're like, yeah, that sounds right, question it. Because obviously that was insane.
Right.
And anybody with a brain, you know, who was able to think critically would have looked at that and gone, well, that's nonsense. But if it already, you know, if you're already looking for a reason to go get her, that it might be time to go look for external sources.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
That's my favorite example of insanity on the internet, because that one was crazy. Anyway, personally, I think it's a scary place for YouTube to be going, but how they've acted the last 2 years, it doesn't surprise me at all. Well, that is our show. For those of you who joined us live, we always appreciate it. Thank you for doing so. If you didn't, you can always join us on Sunday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern by going to f5live.tv/join us. And if you did join us live and you'd like to listen to it again later or share the content, we always appreciate that. You can do that from PLUGHITZlive.com/subscribe. There you'll see all of our shows and can give subscription links and get to all of the individual episodes as well. So we definitely appreciate that. Find us on social media. Share the content. It is what helps us out. It's what allows us to do things like CES and Collision, is when you guys help share the content. So we always appreciate that. It looks like our test here on the split screen was a success tonight. So my guess is you'll be seeing more of that in the future, possibly adding some of the other graphics in as we go. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes. But for now, on behalf of the staff that's not here, I'm Scott.
I'm Abram.
And we will see you guys back next time. Ciao.